Moonshine Life Recipes. If you're looking for directions on how to make corn whiskey, you're in the right place. The following is a detailed recipe for corn whiskey. If you like it, be sure to check out our other articles on how to make moonlight. First, making mashed corn whiskey is quite simple. You could get along with less, but having the following basic equipment will make it that much easier. You will need a large pot to crush, a must cooler to cool liquid, a brewing thermometer, gauze, a plastic funnel and a spare plastic bucket for aeration. Ingredients. As for the ingredients, you will need the following. 8.5 pounds. Crushed corn, sometimes called flaked corn. 2 pounds. Crushed malted barley. 6.5 gallons of water. 1 packet of bread yeast. Fleischmann's Active Dry works well. Please note that the barley must be malted, otherwise the recipe will not work. More on that below. Procedure. Heat 6.5 gallons of water to approximately 165 degrees Fahrenheit. When the temperature is reached, remove the fire. It won't be necessary for a while. Pour all the crushed corn into the water and stir for 3 to 5 minutes. After that, stir for 5 to 10 seconds every 5 minutes. The corn will become a gel as it is stirred. Don't be alarmed, this is perfectly normal. The corn is being decomposed and the starch is being released, which makes the mixture quite thick. When the barley is added and crushing begins, the mixture becomes thinner. Monitor the temperature as you move. When the temperature drops to 152 degrees, add the malted barley and stir for 1 to 2 minutes. Once stirred, cover and let the mixture sit for 90 minutes. For the rest, the enzymes in malted barley actually convert maize and barley starches into sugar. Later, during the fermentation process, the yeast will be added and they will actually turn the sugar into alcohol. So, to reformulate this, what we're trying to do during crushing is to turn grain starch into sugar, so that we can add yeast and turn sugar into alcohol during the fermentation process. The enzymes found in malted grains, i.e. malted barley, are what make this conversion. Without enzymes, none of the starch will be converted to sugar and fermentation will fail. Therefore, it is extremely important to use malted and non-flaked barley common for this recipe. While the wort is resting, it would be a great idea to make a yeast by rehydrating the yeast in a glass of water. For this recipe, add 2 packages of active dry bread yeast to 1/2 cup of water at 110 degrees Fahrenheit, along with 1 teaspoon of sugar. Completing this step allows you to check that the yeast is good. A yeast cake will form and expand on the water if it is working. This step also allows the yeast to obtain an advance. Once added to the puree, the yeast can start rapid fermentation immediately. This reduces the chances of contamination of the wort by bacteria from the environment. After 90 minutes of rest, the puree will need to be cooled to a suitable temperature to add yeast. This is usually around 70 degrees. Use an immersion chiller to quickly cool the wort or simply let it rest for several hours. When it cools, you will need to pour the mixture into a gauze or very fine sieve to separate the solids from the liquids. It is always to cool the wort as quickly as possible to reduce the likelihood that the wort will become contaminated with bacteria from the environment while sitting. Immersion chillers work very well for this. We like to use a gauze cloth and we will dig a little into the gauze stick each time and then squeeze it out. If you use small quantities, you can twist the bag and recover most of the liquid, which means you will have more finished product. After cooling and removing grain solids, aerate and take a specific gravity reading with a hydrometer or refractometer. The easiest way to aerate is to pour the mixture between 2 sanitized buckets. If you see foam and bubbles forming when you do this, you are doing it right. Pour from side to side 10 to 15 times. Take a specific gravity reading by filling a test tube and using a hydrometer or dropping it a little on a refractometer collection plate. Aeration is extremely important. Yeast needs oxygen to survive. Without aeration, fermentation can fail and the yeast will do nothing. Aerate. The specific gravity reading is used to determine the potential initial alcohol. Basically, it allows you to determine how much alcohol will be in the wash if everything goes well during fermentation. After fermentation, another reading will be made to determine the actual alcohol content of the wash. Both readings are required to calculate this number. After aerating and taking a specific gravity reading, add the entire yeast content to the yeast. Finally, transfer your wort to the fermentation vessel. We use 2 small packages of bread yeast for 5 gallons of puree. Our favorite fermentation vessel is a 6.5-gallon glass bottle. The last step in the grinding process is fermentation. After the must is transferred to the fermenter, seal with an air chamber and let it rest for at least 1 week and up to 3 weeks. If it's still bubbling, it's still fermenting. Leave him alone until he doesn't see any bubbles. We made our own inner tube using a rubber stopper, a clear plastic hose and some clips. Wrap the hose a few times and add some disinfectant solution so that the bottom of some of the loops is full, forcing air out while not allowing air to enter. Enjoy. Cheers.